All right, everybody, welcome to General Mentorship. Today is June the 12th, 2023. Can you believe it's already mid-June? It feels like we were just in 2022. So it's going by fast this year. Uh, the purpose of General Mentorship is so that all notaries across the country can bring their questions and get help with them no matter what you're facing in the industry. You have myself and Beth here. We have some other experts on the call as well that we can reach out to. Right up front at the hour, I want to say that if you are driving, please remain on off camera and in listen only mode, meaning that you are on mute. We do that because we care a great deal about you. We don't want you to get into any accidents. And if you are watching the replay for the session, please make sure there's nothing that's going on here that you can't come back and watch. If we do see you on camera in your car, we will cut your video feed. So we just want to make sure that you do that. Now, if you brought specific questions for today, please go ahead and raise your hands. If you were attending the NNA conference this year and you learned something, we definitely want to hear from you if something stood out. So please raise your hand. Feel free to share it with your fellow notaries. I do have some micro topics that I think are really important for the industry right now that I'll go over, and then also some announcements. So I already see a hand raised, so I'd love to go ahead and start out. I know what this question is going to be because she emailed it, and I emailed it right back and said, bring that to General Mentorship because it's a really great question. Ms. Kelly, why don't you kick us off with your question and show how easy it is to ask a question and get those other minds going. You got to unmute yourself there. Let me give you the permission to unmute. There you go.
Thank you, Ronnie. My question is, what type of insurances do we need and how much to make us, kind of stand out? And what I'm talking about is, where should we be at our E&O insurance, personal and car insurance, business insurance? I know you can't really tell us on camera what companies you use because then you're advertising for that company. But if we could have a list, because in our group we've been discussing this and we're like, oh my God, some of us are Ron notaries. The new fidelity requirements are coming out. We were talking about ID cards. So we're just trying to, do you have a checklist?
This is, first of all, I want to say that this is a really great question, okay? And I want to handle this with care. You are correct. I am not a licensed insurance salesman. I am not allowed to discuss insurance, and for all advice from my attorney, I should not suggest insurance in any way. I personally use Hiscox. I am not endorsing them. That is where I buy my errors and emissions insurance from. With that said, there are some companies that don't accept Hiscox, so you may have to have multiple policies. But let's get to the meat of that question. First of all, I believe all states require you to be bonded. So that's one type of insurance that you have to have. Ms. Beth can correct me on that. I know everyone that I've lived in so far has required that you have a bond. Usually that's a small amount, 5 to 10 to 15,000, depending on your state requirements as a notary. The next insurance that you have to have is errors and omissions insurance. And this one is a little bit tricky, okay? If you are only working for signing agencies, you probably want to start at a minimum of 100,000. You can go up from there, but if you're only working with signing agencies, Unlimited Inc. has a blanket policy that covers every notary that works with them. Most signing agencies, if they're running a professional signing agency, should have a blanket policy. But of course, it is in my best interest to choose the notary with the most insurance for the job, right? Because if something does go wrong, guess what? I have less liability of chances of going, and the way we write our contractor agreement is to go after your insurance first because you're the one actually doing the job. So the higher amount that you can get, the better. When I was crossing over becoming a direct notary, I had 2 insurance policies. For the direct clients, you're going to need $1 million. I don't know any title company that's going to hire you if you don't have $1 million policy direct. It's going to be a requirement for all of them, and all signing agencies that work with them have $1 million policy. So if you want to go direct, you're going to need $1 million policy. You may find some smaller title companies that require $500,000 or 250, but you're going to need that higher coverage. Okay. When I was crossing over and I was working direct and with signing agencies, I didn't want to create any red flags that I was also working direct, so I only submitted my smaller insurance policy to, and also in case anything ever happened, my smaller insurance policy to signing agencies that I worked with, and my $1 million policy for my direct clients that I worked with. That way, if something that God forbid ever did happen, and a signing agency wanted to play hardball, they would only have my $100,000 insurance policy. Not that I'm hiding anything, they can find those things out through public record, or a good attorney would go after those things, but you won't have that. Now, you asked about other insurances. Of course, you need vehicle insurance. Every company out there, you are an independent contractor, so if something happens, you have to have, the right kind of insurance. Now, Beth, you can help me out with this because I did not do this, but I do know that this is a thing. Uber and Lyft and all of those other companies that have come about, and DoorDash, all of those have now put a lot of pressure on car insurance companies to say, hey, if you're using your car as a side gig, you're not allowed to claim on our insurance policy. And that if you're driving Lyft or Uber, they're probably going to, if they find out, they're going to cancel your insurance, even if you're just registered with them and not driving. It is probably safer for you as a mobile notary to have a commercial policy on your vehicle. And Ms. Beth, would you concur with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're using your vehicle for business and you're putting as many miles on as we normally do in our day-to-day jobs, and you have an accident, if you don't have a commercial policy, then you could be in serious trouble. Your personal policy has the right to deny the claim, and that would mean that you don't have any coverage at all. So commercial policies, they're gonna be more expensive, guys. Sorry about that. That's just the way it is. But talk honestly with your insurer and make the best choice for you.
And then moving on from car insurance, to add to the list, there are two more things that I'll talk about. If you're a full-time notary, okay, you really want to look into a general liability policy, which is kind of an extension of your car insurance. If you're out there on the road banging them out, doing 5, 10 a day, you really want to have general liability. If you have a brick and mortar, some of you may have an office that you rent. You really want to have a general liability, which is slip and fall. You want to have that discussion with your general liability company. And yes, there is a nominal charge. It's based on your revenue of how much they're going to charge you for general liability. I say overestimate your income, because if you say you're going to make 20,000 and then you make 100,000 and they analyze your books, they're going to charge you the difference on the policy, and that may not be a charge you're prepared for. Learned that my first year of business. Just saying, I didn't understand how things work. So in order to keep going with insurance, you would need to have estimated properly. With that said, general liability can also cover you if you drive over someone's brand new grass, or you back into someone's bird fountain, or God forbid you step on someone's foot or drive over their foot, or their car rolls back and hits their car. Those are the things that your general liability is going to cover you for. Or if you have a brick and mortar, slip and fall. Those are the things that you want to be aware of. Now, I know it sounds like, oh my God, I didn't come here today to hear about all the things I have to purchase. These are all personal choices after your errors and omissions insurance to have. I am a big believer in insurance because, I always use this story. When I was 21, I was 2 days off of my father's insurance. My parents kept saying, Ronnie Lee, get your health insurance, get your health insurance. 2 days after I was eliminated from that policy, I contracted bacterial meningitis. 1 of 5 kids in Atlanta that got it. The only one that lived spent 6 weeks in a coma, had to learn to walk and talk again, and ran up $1 million bill in the course of 6 weeks. So it was a lot cheaper to be dead than it was to be alive. At 21 years old, I had to file bankruptcy because I didn't have proper insurance. The judge just looked at me and said, I have a son your age, this will be over in 7 years. So while all my friends were building their credit and I was working my ass off, I couldn't get a credit card. You know, I could get student loans, but I had a bankruptcy at 21 years old. Not fun. Nobody wants to file that there in their life, but I look at it now at 42 and I think, God, I don't know if I can handle that, you know, at this age. That we've got stuff to do as adults, so it's better to kind of be prepared. Now, the last insurance that I'll talk about is for Ron notaries, and I know that Amy's here. There are no requirements, okay, for Ron notaries to have any type of insurance. However, I do suggest a cybercrime policy. We do have a client at Unlimited Ink Notary who requires us to have a cybercrime policy because we are doing transactions online. We are uploading documents. We are, you know, to stay compliant and all those things. But God forbid something happens on one of our transactions where it can be proved to be our fault. You know, from lack of doing something, we have that cybercrime policy in place. I'm going to let Amy go ahead and speak there because I know that she has something to say on that. I'm just trying to figure out where okay, you've been made a co-host so that you can.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So Ronnie, I want to correct one thing. I know for a fact Florida requires specific insurance to become a Ron. Okay. So it is state by state specific. That's the only state I can think of off the top of my head because I wasn't prepared for this question. But I want to throw, everyone keeps talking about that cybersecurity, okay? You are at no greater risk of doing Ron than you are currently as a mobile signing agent. You're still downloading the same data. You're still getting their ID. It's still going on your computer. So adding the aspect of Ron is, in my eyes, no additional liability to a notary. However, the platform does have to have specific insurance that covers cyber attacks on the platform. So I don't see where a notary would be liable if the platform was hacked, but I could see if you were in a McDonald's and you had all of this data you've scanned in, you've got the IDs because you're uploading them into the portal, and someone hacks your system in like McDonald's, but that's got nothing to do with the RON. It has everything to do with the data. So if it were me and that was an insurance that I felt I needed to have, I would want it as a mobile notary more than as a platform. But that's my opinion.
Got it. And, you know, I again, you guys heard my story right before this. I tend to be overinsured and take the path of least resistance because, you know, Murphy's Law, if it can happen, it will happen. And once one of our clients started requiring that, then I just made it, you know, a policy for myself and the company to have that in place. I suggested, and again, I prefaced it was not required, but I want to make sure that that we do that. Since Amy's here, because I know she sometimes goes into different chats and things, we do have one question or one thing that I want to go over, and then we're going to go to the next questions. I love all these hands raised today.
Ronnie, I can hang out if you want to keep going. I either way works.
While we're on the topic of Ron, let's go ahead and get this one out because I really feel passionately about this one. Also talking about, and speaking of insurance, so to speak, I think this is something that we should bring up for the Ron notaries. It was brought into Notary Stars this week from another signing agency where the notaries had completed several transactions on expired IDs. They are in a state where they're not allowed to take an expired ID. Now, Amy, I talked to earlier, and she can say her piece on this. However, and Amy already schooled me on this part because I did make sure that we talked about it. But when you're using a Ron platform, it's either they're going to allow an expired ID to go through and they're not going to notify you, and it's your job to verify that ID, or they're going to stop it and you can't go through at all. Okay, it's either or what it seems like right now. In this case, they were using a platform that does not stop the verification of that ID because it's expired. You as a notary are responsible. You are on camera now, okay? And believe it or not, you are on camera most of the time in everyone else's houses. I just want to remind you of that. I have a camera every corner of my house, you know, except for changing rooms or bathrooms. You come in this office, you come through the front door. Before you get to the front door, before you get my living room, off my balcony, you're on lockdown, on high definition color camera with great sound. But now you're performing online transactions where they know they can pull that video. You know that it's on there. The signers know that there's a video there. If something happens, you are now going to be on camera, not checking that ID. Miss Amy, did you want to add a little bit of information on that, or did I get it right?
No, you got it right. And I realized, so like with my platform, we don't allow any expired IDs to validate. So if it says that it's expired by 1 day, it's going to say they did not pass ID credential analysis. And while in some states it's okay to use an expired ID, other states it's not. And like I mentioned to Ronnie, as a platform, I would have to do specific code for each state that process has its own, what my ID verification system calls it, its own enterprise. And then each one of those enterprises worked off of a different set standard. So that would be very expensive to do. So it is definitely a one or nothing kind of deal when it comes to platforms. I do know of a platform. They're no longer in business, so I don't know if this option is ever still out there, but they did give like an alert, and then the notary could move forward if they were allowed to, or if they weren't allowed to. They stopped, but that platform, I believe it was encompassed by another one a couple of years ago. So I don't know if that functionality continued. I thought of that after our phone conversation, but the weight of making sure the ID matches the person and is valid falls on that of the notary, just like it does in person.
Awesome. Thank you for that. You know, I want everybody to know we do turn to Amy a lot for Ron questions. I mean, she's basically a liaison at Unlimited Ink and at Notary Stars with a lot of the questions. She's a plethora of knowledge, and if you haven't been over to Cyberrise It, there's a ton of information just on the website. She's written some great books lately. We have them posted on the front page of Notary Stars, so please go by. I mean, honestly, she's like a sponge. Like, she soaks it all up and squeezes it all back out for us. So I find her to be one of the greatest resources in the arena. So make sure you make that connection with Cyberrise It as well, because she's got all the knowledge. Before we move on to Manuel's question, I just want to point out to everybody a little announcement that needs to be made. We are coming up soon on I just want to make sure, can everybody see the Notary Stars YouTube channel? Can you see that? Okay. I want to point this out where you guys can use this as a valuable resource. Going along the same vein, the announcement that we need to make about these security issues and updates from Fidelity, or we're coming close to that time. I think it was June 30th that you had to make those agreements and put those things into place. A few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I did a breakdown. 3 weeks ago, I did a breakdown of each item on screen. If you haven't seen it, if you go to the Notary Stars YouTube channel, please subscribe while you're there. But the way you look for that video, so we always have on the front page our general notary work, document training, all of those things, which are very free and public facing. But if you want to find videos on the Notary Stars YouTube channel, just click on the videos and you'll be able to see all of the videos that we posted in succession, and you'll find that one right there. I made it a nice bright red thumbnail so you can find it easy. The new security requirements for notaries working with BankServe. That's also effective for any notary working with Fidelity as well. So just make sure that you don't miss those security requirements that we're all now going to be bound to, especially if you're working on the BankServe platform. Mr. Manuel, when you are ready, we are ready for your question.
Yes, I am ready. So I have been receiving emails from this company named Hirenotary.com, and at least 2 a day. And it just, the email says that this company is expanding in California and that they need notaries. Then I did my research, and other notaries are saying that it's just probably a scam. And I just want to ask if anyone here in this call have been receiving emails from this company.
if you want to, anybody wants to raise their hand and talk about this or bring it up later, but I will tell you, I've shared the screen here so everybody can see it. I will tell you that I personally reached out to them from Notary Stars, and I extended an invitation years ago and said, you know, basically you have been marked as a scam. If you are not a scam, we would love for you to come and talk about Hirenotary. And I gave them a whole list, never received a response. I personally signed up for it just to find out what would happen. Nothing happened, and I charged back the credit card. So, you know, I investigate things like that quite often for the Notary Stars community. You know, I'm not bragging, but we do have a budget with the company where I can play with little things like that and get answers and sign up and see if something happens. So I used company funds, signed up for it, never heard anything back. It was a complete scam for me. And if they want to come back and say differently after they watch the YouTube video, my name's Ronnie Mickle. My email's contact@notarystars.com. I'd love to talk to you. But you know, it's nobody's ever had any success that I've heard of on that, Manuel.
Yeah, and I did the same thing. I signed up for a year, got nothing verifiable from them, canceled right before it was due to renew. And then, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, started getting those emails all the time. So I wrote them. I sent them an email and I said, hey, how do you market? Who's in your database? Who do you push out notary profiles to? Where do you get your business? Blah, blah, blah. They never responded. So I said, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Here's somebody we haven't heard from in a while, Ms. Beth McGee. If you are ready, we are ready for your question.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of questions actually. I'm moving to a bigger city in the next month, and so I am thinking that I'm going to reach out directly to title companies and banks. And I was thinking the other day, people keep saying that you can charge more and you make more money doing that. But if it's right nearby and I don't have to print anything and I just show up, why am I charging? Why would I charge more than if I'm, you know, traveling out and printing? And
That is a conversation that you would need to have with your direct client. And I agree with you. And so when I worked directly with the Fidelity office here in Phoenix, when I was building up Unlimited, I had prices for in-house where, you know, they were pretty close to my house. I had prices for in-house. I had prices for out-of-house. And they were very happy about that because I was going to their office to sign in office sometimes. And then if I traveled, I had a fee. Now the travel fee was flat rate. Sometimes they'd send me an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And sometimes it would be inner city. But I never charged them more because I made $10,000, $15,000 a month off of them. I mean, I you don't bite the hands that feed you, right? I didn't nitpick with them. So that is a conversation that you should have with the escrow officer and the individual that you're working with at that company. Sometimes you're going to hear, no, we bill our customers this, so we have to pay you this. Because on a settlement statement, if they take $150, let's say that they always pad in $175, they have to pay you $175 for that service because they have to take it out of the settlement statement at closing. So there may be some people that say, you know what, I just tell all my lenders that it's this for a mobile notary. If it's far, you'll get paid that. If it's, you know, close, you'll get paid that. It's just a conversation you have with your clients. And again, I like your honesty about that, and your clients will appreciate it. It's definitely how I built my business. But I also found certain clients would want to work that way. Certain clients just already had it pre-built.
right. And, you know, I've heard that sometimes they'll have like a day where you go and you're just there and you do like signing after signing. And it just seemed kind of ridiculous that I would have one trip, print no documents, sit in a chair and do, you know, many signings and make the same fee. So anyway, just something to consider. The other thing I wondered about is I am considering adding I-9 verification to my offerings. And I'm curious what people charge for that. I can do it Ron, or I could do it in person.
No. Actually, you can't do it, Ron. I think they just removed that provision. It has to be face to face. So we had a Ron provision and a remote provision during the pandemic. And
Okay.
that just expired, and that's a federal law, so it would encompass all 50 states. So it's going to be face to face, Beth. And those 10-minute appointments, you just don't charge much for at all. Anywhere between $20 and $40 a session. $40 the very top end. But even if you're going to do it for $20, right? It's always going to be something where you kind of control that process, make them come to you, meet you at Starbucks across the street from, they don't know you live across the street from Starbucks, but say, hey, I'm going to be in this area. And how about we meet at Starbucks? They'll say, okay, I can probably get over there. But that helps keep you from traveling all over the city for a $20 appointment. Okay.
A little bit of information on that too. UPS stores and any store that just does notary will not do I-9 verifications because it is a liability, because you're not doing a notarial act, and they're very strict on their employees. So generally, if they call you, they have to go with you. My going rate was an individual when I did I-9s was $39. When I processed them through Unlimited Ink, to be able to pay the notaries, we charged $59 to a particular company. Amy might be able to comment on this as well, but I heard recently that provision that they made, so all of you can expect a big pop of I-9s coming up, because that provision that they made for all the remote workers during COVID, all of those I-9s now have to be re-signed with wet signatures now. So if they did them by Ron, they have to redo them with a wet signature and in person with a notary. So you may see an influx of those coming in and being like, why is this happening? Because it's going to be that 2 years of doing that coming back to the, the stand in person type signing now.
So do you think that's a good thing to market to businesses?
Absolutely.
Like in your LinkedIn and stuff, in your posts, to say, are your I-9s up to date? Do you know this federal law change, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. And, every city has, and I don't want to give away all my marketing things here, but every city has a certain kind of company that hires remote workers. They all, they might hire out of Arizona or whatever. If you can find out their human resources contact and market directly to their human resources, who is the one that's going to do that. We recently had one, and I actually took it. It's the first file I took from Unlimited Ink in God knows how long. And the reason I took it is because it was a big company hiring a remote worker here, and I knew that they were going to be hiring more. So I went and took that assignment and communicated with human resources that we're a force here and we can do that. So when you get them, take note of who sent that I-9 form. Don't just fill it out for the customer. Look up the business. Ask who the human resources manager is that you need to send a copy of something to, and get that information so you can turn around and market. Don't tell your customer that you're going to market to their human resources.
Right.
Just say, I have an intake form. What company are you working for? What have you? And capture that information so you can turn around and market it.
Okay, because I keep getting calls to do it. I just got another call today, and I just said, I haven't done it yet. So I don't, and I actually was just leaving for another signing this afternoon when they called me, and I was like, I can't make it happen, but I don't want to say that anymore. I would like to take them, because I have found a great training, and I do have all the documentation on how to do it well. So if you have any other resources about how to do them, or if you guys have any videos or anything like that,
we do have a video for I-9 training for sure on the website.
You do?
Yes, we do.
On the website? Okay. Okay, I'll look. Thank you, Beth. Thanks a lot.
We got everything here.
I know you do. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, Miss Becky, you have been so patient there. I'd love to hear for your question, and thank you for waiting.
Hi, yes, thank you. I am a brand new notary. I've only done about 3 different general notary assignments, and I'm in Missouri. So I do have a few questions regarding witnessing.
Okay.
I have, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've looked on the Notary Stars website specifically for like witnessing training. I'm just a little bit confused about when witnesses are needed, how many witnesses, is it pretty consistent with certain types of documents, such as like power of attorneys and affidavits, because I feel like that's state specific almost, but when I've done some research, I found that some resources are saying, yes, you have to have a witness, and some are saying, no, you don't. So I'm a little bit confused and not quite sure. And then on top of that, if you don't know if you need a witness or not, such as if you're just going into an appointment and you haven't seen the document, is there specific language that says, you know, would you be able to recognize that they do need a witness is my question. Sorry if I asked a lot in that information, but.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes,
So,
thanks.
yeah, you're going to run into a couple of situations where you need witnesses. When we talk about general notary work, you definitely are talking about powers of attorney. They almost always need 1, sometimes 2 witnesses. Depending on where it comes from, you also might have instructions on that power of attorney to tell you who can be a witness on that particular document. And I'm going to tell you, it changes between things like general powers of attorney and advanced directives or living wills. Okay. But if those documents for advanced directives or living wills, depending on what state you're in, depends on what it's called, right? If those come from their state attorney general's office, you're going to have pages of instructions. So you're going to figure it out pretty quickly, how many witnesses you need and who legally can be a witness on the document that you're looking at. The other witness situation you're going to get into, a document witness based for real estate. Okay. So we have a couple of witness states in the US. There's 5 of them. I don't think I can name them all right this second. Louisiana, South Carolina, Georgia. What's the other ones, guys? Florida. For conveyance documents only. And then you still have the issue of sometimes that lender will want a witness regardless of state laws. So basic, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Beth, I did share the screen here with the witness states out of the downloadable resources at Notary Stars. Just for everybody who, if they needed it, I'll post it. It is part of our training program, but if you're looking for it as a Notary Star, it's under members only training and under the downloadable resources. I will allow, since this came out today, for this to go out into the chat for anybody that's here. So if you have a need for this, let's see, go into everyone in the meeting. If you have need for this, when you're working in real estate, this is a helpful little tool that you can use to remember what those 5 witness states are. And I think it's something that everybody should keep in their notary bag, specifically when they're working with loan signings.
Yeah.
And Ms. Becky, since you asked the question, I really hope you'll be one of the ones that grabs that link in the chat to download that.
So one other question in regards to that, I did have, for one of my first signings, it was a power of attorney that was, she was basically redoing it. And at that point, if they're redoing it, does another witness need to be present for that? Because there was nowhere to sign for a witness or anything on this document. And it looked like they had printed off, like in Missouri, one of the power of attorneys that can be printed off just has like sections. It doesn't even have areas where you can initial. It's just sections of information that they are picking, I guess. And so I was just really unclear about that. I didn't know if they should have had a witness, if they didn't, you know.
What type of power of attorney was it?
It was just a general, it wasn't a healthcare directive.
If they're presenting a document to you and it doesn't have any requirements that you can see for a witness, then I wouldn't worry about it. It's not your job necessarily. I mean, it's a good practice to know where the rocks are when you step out into the water, but it's not necessarily your job to look at a document and decide that they need witnesses. If it's not there, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
that's what, when I
It's
started,
a really great time
I
to,
was confused.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, when I researched it, I was just confused because there was no place for a witness to sign. There was no mention. And like I said, some sources said, yes, you had to have one. Some said you didn't. So I was just, you know, I kind of like what Beth just said, I just was kind of settled in the fact that, you know, I didn't see anything. I didn't read anything about having a witness, and I felt like I did it correctly. But then, of course, I just questioned it since then, like if I should have had one. So
but you're not an attorney, so it's not your job to make that call. If that's the document they presented to you, that's your only job.
okay.
Yeah.
And Ms. Becky, I think this is a perfect time to remind everybody here some wonderful words from Carol Ray. If you didn't hear of her, I do hope that you'll also look at Notary to Pro, which is a wonderful course still to this day. The late, great Carol Ray, I call her the grandmother of all notaries, used to say often, let the documents be your guide. You know, let them speak to you. So if you look down and you don't see that witness line, it's okay. That was a good advice that she gave a lot of notaries right there at the end. She said it often. Let the document speak to you. Let the document be your guide. Sometimes we get in a little too in our own head about what can happen, and that can cause us to make decisions that we shouldn't. So I wanted to bring those words of wisdom, because we all learn so much, and even if you're here, you're still learning things that we learned from Carol Ray that we're just passing on to another generation. So I want to make sure that those words don't get lost as we keep moving. The next question that we have up is from Miss Mary.
Hi, I have a couple of questions, and you partially answered them, I think. So when it comes to like powers of attorney or wills, it's a little more complicated than just doing the notarizations, because sometimes there's witnesses involved. We have in our handbooks our little guide to how much we can charge per notarization. Is it, it seems to be pretty common that people notaries are charging as packages, like a seller package or buyer's package for those type of things. Does that go against those handbooks that put limits on the fee per notarization?
Yes, depending on where you got it from. If you get a will from an attorney's office and that attorney says, take this document to my client, explain it to them, present it to them, witness their signatures and notarize it, now you can charge a package fee.
Okay.
You get a call from Ronnie
An individual,
and he says, come over and notarize my will for me. You can only charge him your state mandated per certificate or per signature, whatever that case may be, for that notarization.
Okay, so my other question is kind of related to the unauthorized practice of law and what Ronnie was just talking about, not saying too much. So wills don't have to be notarized, but often when they are, it's the self-proving affidavit that's notarized. So if somebody comes to you with a will and they sign it and they would like it notarized, and we kind of have this idea that that's not going to do anything, is it ethical to say, hey, do you want a jurat or acknowledgement, or do we need to mention the self-proving affidavit? Is that unauthorized practice of law?
No, depending on how you give that information. So if in your state, you don't notarize wills, but you have an option for a self-proving affidavit, you go there, they want you to notarize a will, and you say, well, typically in our state, we don't notarize wills, but let's check the Attorney General's website. I think there's another way to do this. So if you're guiding them and doing it together,
Okay,
them view it, letting them choose that self-proving affidavit,
okay.
then you're fine.
okay,
You can't say, no, we don't notarize wills, but here, let's notarize this self-proving affidavit. Now
right.
you're just stepping over that law, over that line and into that unauthorized practice of law. But so it's sometimes it can be all in how you approach it.
So we can guide them, but we shouldn't be telling them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You can tell them what's available. If it's common knowledge, if anybody can Google it and find it, then you're not practicing law. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, because I found out that information just by Googling it myself. So,
There you
but
go.
we could Google it together.
You're going to bring it
Okay.
up and say, I think, I'm not sure, but let me see, there's something here. There it is on the Attorney General's website. What do you think
Mhm.
about this?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Can I keep asking questions? I have one more. Yes, yeah,
Sure.
okay, so the last one is related to other fees, like in Washington, we can charge a travel fee. But that doesn't mean last minute fee or after hours fee. It just means a travel fee, right? Or am I wrong on that?
I would say you're right, because there are other states that actually define after-hour fees as well.
Okay, and if our state only allows travel fees and notarization fees, we need to find a way, if we're going someplace that requires like a ferry or staying someplace all day, we just need to increase our travel fee to compensate that time aspect of it.
Unless you're in Arizona, that is specific by mileage.
Okay,
So, yeah,
well, you don't have any ferries, do you?
we don't have, well, I don't know.
Maybe.
We don't have any ferries, and we don't have any tolls, but they're.
Oh, no, that's wild. Okay, that's great.
But yeah, so we're kind of stuck on our travel fees, and our handbooks also say that we can't charge any other ancillary fees. So,
So very specific. Okay.
yeah, for you, when it says travel fees and it doesn't set your travel fee,
Mhm.
then you could up that travel fee to accommodate for ferry charge. I wouldn't nickel and dime your client to death. Well, there's my travel fee and I got a ferry, so I got to put that on there, and I've got to wait for you 3 hours in between signings, so that I'm going to have to charge you for that. I wouldn't do that. I would just to give them one lump sum. I'm going to be traveling from point A to point B, and we're going to be spending quite a bit of time. You have to leave and then come back, and I've got a ferry. Yeah, I can probably do that whole thing for XYZ. I'm just not going to itemize it for
Right. Okay. Thank you.
them. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so one of my favorite screen names to pop up on these calls, the Notary Geezer. Mr. Gary, when you are ready, we are ready for your question.
Okay, great. Thank you. I've done a number of NOCs, notice of commencement, which is kind of like part of permit running. I look through the menu, through the Notary Stars menu, hunting for permit running kinds of information, and I don't find anything. Is there anything?
There is not anything on permit running, but I believe that there are some wonderful trainers out there that do permit running, and what I will do is put that on the what do they call it, the docket to look into. Ms. Beth, if you'll put it into the notes for the meeting, I'd love to look into having somebody that does permit running training.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Tira, you are up next.
Hello.
Hi there.
I have a question. Several months back, I had someone approach me about getting a trust done because they saw my car magnet, but they were not happy about the fact that I did not have a physical location. And I think it scared them a little bit. And I don't know what would be the best way to explain that to them so that they would not be scared.
So it's very easy. Most banks and most financial institutions will only notarize their documents. And if they have a trust documentation, most places don't want to absorb the liability for notaries, and most notaries have turned to becoming mobile notaries because it doesn't pay very much. And so we are mostly, traveling these days. That's how I've had to explain it to a lot of clients over and over and over again on the daily here at Unlimited Ink, because they call and they go, "Oh, so you don't have a physical location?" No, we do not. And my standard response is, most banks don't offer notary services anymore because of the liability. They'll only notarize their documents, and most notaries have turned to mobile notary.
Okay.
If you practice, saying it one time, and it's easier to do it when I'm on the phone and I'm actually in that phone call, and it comes out very flowy because I do it all the time. It's harder when I try to make myself say it. You'll get used to your language, but I'd say write it down what you're gonna say, and then the first time it'll roll off your tongue and it'll just keep going.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
No.
Okay.
That, Tira, and just kind of point out the benefit to them, the convenience as well. Don't leave that out. Make them feel like you're doing them a favor, which technically we are, right?
Yeah.
It's for their convenience.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a question coming up from Miss Lisa Duffy, and I'm going to ask her to unmute. But before she asks any questions, I want to make sure all of you guys are aware that her class launched this weekend. She was with us 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to post her new website into the chat now. I want to say a couple of things about this. This is actually one of the announcements I wanted to make. I don't want to just announce that Lisa is here, tonight to sell her course, which we hope you all take if you're interested in live scan and fingerprinting. But I also want to use this moment as an example. I helped Lisa set up her own, course website and, get it going and all those things, and give her a launch and all those things. And I want to let you guys know that this is exactly what I want from Notary Stars. I want people who have something to offer. And if you guys haven't noticed, on the first page of Notary Stars, we just added her as well. But Notary Stars is not just Beth and Ronnie and Travis and the team behind it. We want to make Notary Stars a place where if you have a course and you're not ripping people off and you are a stand-up member of the community and you may need a little help putting it together and how to do it, we want you to come and become a part of those trainer list on Notary Stars. So just sharing the screen here so you can see again where to find all those connections. On the first page of Notary Stars, these are all free and public for you. We have a lot of things that you can read and do, but down at the bottom here, we have all of the state organizations that we have connected with, and we're adding more, as many as we can. And then we have national and trainers endorsed by Notary Stars. We have the live scan and e-card fingerprinting. We also have Kendra Lewis, signing agent basics. We have Notary Assist, Lawrence Institute for Notaries. Laura Beaver's on here. Of course, Notary to Pro is on here. We're going to keep pointing you in direction of other great places. And if you want to be one of those great places, I loved working with Lisa, on getting the word out about her new course for live scan and e-part fingerprinting. And I want to make sure that you guys know that, you know, it is a safe place to bring your ideas. I don't want to teach live scan and e-part fingerprinting. I don't have time. I'm busy doing what we do over here. If you have a niche that you are an expert in and you want to create a course and you want to drive people back to your own website, you know, come talk to me about it. Send an email to me about it. I can't promise the world that, you know, or anything, but I can promise you that I'll help you and that you'll own your own course on those niches. You know, now if you come to me and say, I want to invent the next Notary Stars, too bad, I already did. But you can bring, you know, your niches and showcase them here, because that's what Notary Stars is about. I want this to be kind of like a little clover leaf. You come here, you learn something, you go back out and learn something, you bring it back, and I want people to share. Ms. Lisa, did you have a question today about what's going on today?
Actually, it's first of all, thank you, Ronnie. And thank you for your help with my courses, very valuable. But this is for the notary geezer who asked about permit running. So I took a class with her company name is Cyna Notary, CYNA Notary. And she teaches an excellent permit running course for $49.
Can you
So her
post that in the
website,
chat as well?
yeah, I can. I'm gonna put the link in there. Yeah, her name is Cynthia Alexander. And she founded Cyna Notary in 2008. So I'm gonna put her in the chat right now. I just wanted to give him that information.
Thank you. Now that's going to be very valuable. And Ms. Beth, maybe we should reach out to her to see if she wants to come and, you know, kind of showcase what she's doing on Notary Stars, so we can add her to another valuable resource. I would say anybody that Lisa endorses is going to be a good person. You guys don't know the backstory behind how Lisa and I, you know, came to bring this together, but I'm very happy that I've gotten to know her, and over this last month and a half or so, we've, you know, become, I believe, friends and colleagues at the same time. So anybody that she would suggest, I would say is going to be, you know, in our, you know, pillow of feathers, or whatever the right analogy is for that, you know, birds of a feather kind of thing. Ms. Lisa, did you have any other questions or anything else you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say that if anyone went to the website, Get First Class Trained, it has been updated. So there were some links that they went to the correct agency, but the page had changed. So I've updated all of the pages. So for each state, all 50, there's a link for what agency to contact to find out if you can do fingerprinting in your state. I do know that every single state does ink cards. Most states also have live scan. The question is not if your state does it. The question is, does your state allow you as a private business owner to do it? Because a lot of them, it's only open to government and law enforcement who can do it. But there's some agencies, some major fingerprint companies that will allow you to sort of partner under their umbrella in order to do the business. And you just kind of have to split the profits or whatever it is with them. And they have that all laid out. And I've made a note of the ones that I know for sure. I've heard about the other ones providing certain things, but I haven't been able to confirm it. So I didn't put it under that state. So the ones that are highlighted are the ones I know for sure offer either ink cards for private business owners, or live scan, or both, or their major dominating company is Identigo, Print Scan, or Idemia, which Idemia and Identigo are the kind of the same, but I've made a note of that. And there's some other new information that's on there from since we launched on Friday. So I just wanted to get that information out. On the page where you click to, what does it say? I think it says, hold on, let me take a quick look. Purchase courses. It has a layout of the agenda, so you guys know what you're getting. So on that page, I created the about the course. It lets you know that you can take it at your own pace. Once you pay for it, it's yours for 2 years. So you can go back, you can resume play, you can do whatever you need to do to focus on content that, you know, may be a little confusing when you first hear it. And so you need to replay it, but I'm also available. You know, all my contact information is at the bottom of I think most of the pages. So email, text, phone call, however you want to talk to me. You can reach out through social media. It may take me a little longer because I'm, you know, usually in the office working my business or on a mobile call. So sometimes it takes me longer to get back through social media or to even see that someone reached out to me that way. The very best way to reach me is email or text.
Perfect.
And so that was a mouthful, but that's all I wanted to say.
And I was sharing the screen as well while you were talking so people could see what you were talking about. So I was trying to get out there. Miss Lisa, I appreciate you. And guys, I just have 3 more little points to make and we're going to wrap up for today. I think this has been a very informative hour. I want to point out a couple of things. You know, we are getting busier again, so I'm trying to remind you guys about little tips that you need, and business is picking up. We are seeing it every single month get busier back in the loan signing agent arena. And I want to remind you that, you know, here at Notary Stars, we teach you when you get a file, one of the very first things that you should look down at is on your settlement statement and your CD, and look and see when that file is closing, if they don't tell you in the instructions. A good notary knows when their file is closing. Oh, I can see here, you're supposed to close on this day. Now it could close after that. That's between title and those. But when you see that date, you should assume that the closing date is the date that they are going to need the originals in hand. A lot of states don't allow notaries to close by scan, okay? Or sometimes they have to have a FedEx tracking number and it has to be tracking for them to do it. There's all kinds of rules. But a good notary loan signing agent looks down at the settlement statement and the CD and says, when is this closing? When will they need originals? When will they need scans? With that said, it is your responsibility as a notary to know your cutoff times. And here's a little tip that I used in the field when I was working with people outside of Arizona who sent me files. If they said, oh, can you make it to the drop? I say my drop time is 3:30, even though it was 4:30. And there was one at 5:30 I could make it to. Under promise and over deliver is something that you need to kind of keep in your mind. Always tell people that gives you an hour cushion, and you should always strive to be at your drop 45 minutes before the cutoff time, because FedEx and UPS is notorious for early pickups, especially around holidays. They start pushing it. You know, they want to get off work. They want their weekend. They know they got to get off. So just make sure that you're aware of those drop times. The last thing that I want to point out is in our weekly email, we started doing a series called Rising Star, and we're doing it every month. We've had a couple of them on here. A Rising Star video is not, you know, we see a lot of and I ain't calling out any particular people. People say when I say this, there's a million people on TikTok now going make 6 figures. We've taken the Rising Star series to kind of put back education and how notaries are getting to where they're going. What initiatives did they take? We're not talking just about Notary Stars. They can mention any course that they took. They can take any marketing course out there. We don't care if they're talking about Notary Stars. What we're doing with that series is giving you inspirational information on how notaries turned their business around, how they got to where they're going, whether it be through our course or a multitude of courses. I really hope that you guys will entertain those videos and watch them, because, you know, we have Miss Patricia out of Florida that just did one, and we posted it yesterday. I think it was yesterday or Saturday that it went out, and then it was in the newsletter today. You know, there was a moment where she thought she was going to literally give up in this industry. And she took the right procedures to turn her business around. And she checked her books last month. She called me and she said, that's why we chose her for the Rising Star. She called me and she said, "Oh, Ronnie, I just need to thank you because, you know, you turned my business around." And I said, "Miss Pat, you know, you turned your business around. You know, you'd only use the tools that we provided you. Any of my marketing students will tell me, unless you actually implement what I teach you, you know, it's not going to work. You have to implement the things that you do." And somebody posted earlier that they took the permit course, but then they never did anything with it. You know, Condoleezza Rice spoke at my graduation years ago, and she said, "Now you have education, you have to actually do something with it." And that really resonated with me. You know, once you learn something, you got to do something with it. But I hope that you guys will watch that series of the Rising Stars and keep an eye on it. There's so much, you know, fluff out there of, "I made so much money," and all these things. And really, I want those videos to kind of go out into your heart. And, you know, it's great to be inspired about how much money we can make, right? But it's also great to learn how I got there. And that's what we're really focusing on in that series is, how did this notary make it? How did they pull themselves up from a rock and a hard place? How did they turn their business around during a downturn market? Those are things that I think that you might find beneficial in that series, and they're absolutely free. They're on the YouTube channel. And again, I'll share the YouTube channel homepage because I want you guys to know how much we actually have on there just for free on the YouTube channel. But you can always go to our YouTube channel, and then all you need to do is click on the videos section. So on our homepage, we have it laid out for you in a lot of sections of things that you might be interested in, but that's not all we have. We have all of these videos that are not even part of our paid content that are free for you. We have community tips, we have, you know, everything. And the Rising Star series is what you really want to look for. You can see Miss Patricia's, you can see Kelly Gimmons. I know Manuel Puga's on there, and I think there's another one in there, or one in the works. But it is part of you know, an initiative to kind of get away from the talk about how much money we can make and talk about how do we get there. You know, it's great to say you can make money, but how do I do it? You know, how do I turn my business around? How did I get there? And we have one last question for today. Mr. Butch, I would love to hear from you.
Oh, hi, Ronnie. Ronnie, I didn't have $800 in my budget, but could you tell me what I missed at the conference? Or are you going to go over that later?
So we opened it up with that. If anybody wanted to share anything that they learned at the conference, I personally did not even get to step foot on it. Actually, I heard there's 4 people that came back, or around 4 people that came back with COVID. I actually am just testing negative from having COVID myself, so I didn't even get to go interact at all. So I didn't learn a single thing there. I learned that I was really depressed over the time that I could have been there. I wasn't planning on like actually attending, but I did want to go see everyone. And then I started seeing photos of everyone, and then I really wanted to hurt someone. So I don't want to talk about my not being able to be there, but you know, we did open it up today for anybody who did attend. If they learned something that they could, you know, share that today, but I don't think anybody really brought anything. Did you have anything else to say, Mr. Butch?
No, I was just curious, you know, what I missed. I mean, for $800, I would want something, you know. But anyway, next year, I'll go next year. I'll save some money. I'll go next year. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you. And it'll be in Orlando next year. So it's all the more reason. You can go to NNA and Disneyland or Disney World, whichever one's over there. I always get them confused, but you can go to Disney. All right. And then Miss Amy, you have a question or comment? Oh, wait, you got to unmute. You did, but I accidentally muted you, trying to send you the message to unmute.
Okay. I wanted to say that the best class from the NNA that I actually walked away learning something was the class about artificial intelligence. It was phenomenal. It gave exact real world answers. That was my best takeaway. Some of my gripes were that some misinformation was given in some of the classes, and I did not like that, I think. And then there were a lot of sales pitches this year that were not normal, because I've attended 2 now. The one before, they did a great job. You went there, you learned something. But this year I felt I walked away going, well, if I really wanted to learn that, I should have just bought your course and I would have saved like half my money, you know? Side note, keep in mind the NNA for 2024 is over Mother's Day weekend. So that is a little bit of a put off for some people, but plan ahead and arrange for that as well. But otherwise, I'll still be going. I had a blast. It was phenomenal. I got to see, I got to engage. And for me, I don't necessarily go there to learn something. I go there to get the energy from other notaries to push me forward and connect with those, like in this Zoom that you would, I got to meet Beth in person. It was phenomenal. I wish I could have met Ronnie too, but the idea behind it is you make those personal connections to an impersonal situation and you walk away with this drive like you never had before. And you've got this entirely different perspective. And it's phenomenal. Even if you can go to a smaller one or you go to the big one, you always walk away with that energy and that boost. And it definitely drives your business in a new direction. So I wanted to throw that out there too. Thank you.
Thank you. I concur with everything that you said. I did make a warning to everybody: when you go to conferences, they are designed to sell. You know, that's what they got to make that money back, and all those presenters that come spend money, so they got to try to make it back. I will keep my mouth shut for the rest of the day on this topic, because God knows I can keep it going, and I've got a website rolled out with one of my marketing students tonight. So I would like to ask you at this time, if you're still with us, to please turn on your cameras for just a moment so that we can do our signature wave with each other. And you guys know I always say it this way: if you are not naked and you are not stuffing your face with a sandwich right now, please turn on your camera so you can wave. And I feel like I'm like that guy at, at the end of the church sermon where I'm like, shake hands with somebody, give somebody a hug, wave to somebody on this camera today. They might need it. You might need it. So take a moment and turn those cameras on, wave to somebody, wave to those people who couldn't be here today, because we get tons of watches on the YouTube replays. Wave to those future notaries that are going to be here with us one day. And Miss Beth, how do we really say it?
Just remember, guys, we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. Some of us have yachts, some of us have canoes, and some of us are just dog paddling. So be kind, reach back, grab the hand of the notary next to you and show them the way. Bring them along, teach somebody else. Thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody.